Hello everyone and welcome back to Mysterious Murmurs. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story name: Buried but Not Gone. The first time Jason heard the voice, he thought it was the wind. It came late at night, a soft whisper carried through the trees beyond his bedroom window. A dry, raspy sound, like leaves scraping against pavement. He almost ignored it, almost convinced himself it was nothing, until it spoke again. Jason. His name. A breathy murmur drifting in through the cracked window, curling around his ears like cold fingers. Jason bolted upright in bed, heart hammering. He stared at the window, expecting to see something. But there was nothing there. Just the black stretch of the backyard, the old oak tree swaying in the breeze, its branches rattling like bones. The air was still, silent. Then, just as he was about to lie back down, a shadow moved beneath the tree. And Jason realized something was digging. Jason's parents had bought the house a few months ago, a fixer-upper in a small, quiet town. The kind of place people moved to when they wanted to disappear. The backyard was big, but there was something off about it. A weird dip in the ground beneath the oak tree, like the earth had caved in at some point. His dad had said it was just an old tree root shifting, but Jason wasn't so sure. Especially now, because someone or something was clawing at that spot. Jason's stomach twisted. He didn't move, didn't breathe. He just watched. The digging stopped. Silence. The shadow stood up, tall, unnaturally tall. Its limbs stretched too long, its fingers curled like talons. Jason couldn't see its face, but he could feel its eyes on him. Watching. Waiting. A voice, barely more than a sigh, drifted through the night. "You shouldn't have come here." Jason yanked the covers over his head. The next morning, Jason searched the backyard. The spot under the tree was disturbed, the soil uneven, like something had been pulled from the ground. Or maybe pushed back in. He didn't tell his parents. They wouldn't believe him. But at school he asked around. "Hey," he said to a kid named Mark, who had lived in town his whole life. "Did anything weird ever happen in my house?" Mark's face darkened. "You live in the old Dawson place?" Jason nodded. Mark swallowed. "Dude, you ever hear about the man who died twice?" Jason felt a chill run down his spine. "No." Mark glanced around, lowering his voice. "They say a guy named Henry Dawson used to live there, like 50 years ago. Quiet guy. Kind of a loner. Then one night, he just vanished." Jason frowned. "Vanished?" Mark nodded. The cops thought he ran off. But then, a few weeks later, his body showed up. In his own backyard. Jason's blood ran cold. Mark continued. "The weird thing? They buried him. But a few days later, someone found his grave empty. Like he crawled out. Like he wasn't done yet." Jason's mouth was dry. "What happened to him?" Mark shrugged. "Nobody knows. Some say he came back looking for revenge. Others say he was never really dead to begin with." He shivered. "All I know is, people who live in that house don't stay long." Jason felt a pit form in his stomach. That night, he dreamed of hands reaching up from the dirt. The whispering started on the third night. Soft at first, just a gentle rustling sound, like wind through dry grass. Then words. "Help me." Jason shot up in bed. his heart slamming against his ribs. The voice came from inside the room this time. His gaze darted around the darkness. The window was shut. The door was closed. And then, a shadow moved in the corner. Jason's breath hitched. Something was standing in the room with him. He reached for his lamp, fingers fumbling for the switch, and the whisper turned into a scream. His bedroom door slammed open. Jason lunged out of bed, heart pounding. But the hallway was empty. The whole house was still, except for one thing: a trail of muddy footprints leading from his room to the backyard. Jason knew what he had to do. He grabbed a flashlight and crept downstairs, every nerve screaming at him to turn back. But he had to see. The backyard was silent, the moon casting pale shadows across the grass. And the earth beneath the tree was freshly disturbed. Jason swallowed hard. He stepped forward and dropped to his knees, fingers digging into the dirt. The soil was loose, crumbling easily under his hands. Something was buried here. He dug faster, harder. His nails scraped against something solid. A wooden box. A coffin. Jason's breath caught in his throat. The whispers grew louder, curling around him, filling his ears. "Let me out." His hands trembled as he pried the lid open. The smell hit him first. Damp earth, rotting wood, and something else. Something wrong. Inside the coffin was a body, or what was left of one. A man, his skin stretched tight over his bones, his mouth frozen in a silent scream. His hands were raised, fingers curled like claws, as if he had been trying to scratch his way out. Jason staggered back, bile rising in his throat. The body twitched, and then its eyes snapped open. Jason ran. He bolted for the house, lungs burning, the whispers turning into laughter behind him. He slammed the door, locked it, pressed his back against it. His whole body trembled. Silence. A thud against the door. Jason's breath hitched. Another thud. Louder this time. Something was trying to get in. Then a voice. Ragged. "You shouldn't have dug me up, Jason." The door rattled. Jason squeezed his eyes shut. The whisper was right next to his ear now. "You shouldn't have dug me up." The last thing he saw was dirt-stained hands reaching for his throat. By morning, Jason was gone. His mother searched the house, the backyard, the woods beyond. No sign of him. Only an open grave beneath the oak tree. And this time, it wasn't empty. Jason was gone. At least, that's what everyone thought. His mother called the police. The whole town searched for him. Neighbors, volunteers, even the fire department. They combed the woods, the abandoned barn at the edge of town, every crack and crevice where a boy might hide. But there was nothing. No footprints. No signs of struggle. Just the open grave in the backyard. By the time the sun set, the cops gave up. One of them, Officer Reed, pulled Jason's mother aside, his face tight with sympathy. "Ma'am, we'll keep looking," he said, though he didn't sound too hopeful. "But sometimes, kids run away." Jason's mom shook her head. "He wouldn't." Reed sighed. "If he comes back, let us know." Then they left. By midnight, the house was quiet again. And that's when the scratching started. Something still moves. It came from beneath the floor. Jason's mother was in the kitchen, staring blankly at the table, untouched coffee cooling in her hands. Frit, frit, frit. A slow, rhythmic sound, like fingernails dragging against wood. She straightened. "Jason?" Silence. Frit. She stood up, her breath hitching. The sound was coming from below. The basement. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the doorknob, twisting it open. The basement steps yawned before her, disappearing into pitch-black darkness. She hesitated. A whisper. Mom. Her heart nearly stopped. She knew that voice. Jason? Silence. Help me. Her stomach clenched. She fumbled for the light switch, but the bulb flickered and died, leaving her in the dark. The scraping sound returned. Closer now. Right beneath her feet. Like something was digging its way up. She backed away. Slammed the door. Locked it. And then she heard it. A slow, wet breath. Right on the other side. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Jason's mother packed a suitcase. She didn't tell anyone. Didn't call the police. She just left. And within a week, another family moved in. It was like Jason had never existed. That's how this town worked. People disappeared. Houses were resold. And everyone just forgot. But Jason hadn't forgotten. Because Jason wasn't gone. Not really. Beneath the dirt, Jason woke up in the dark. His lungs burned, his body stiff. The air was thick, damp, rotten, wrong. He tried to move. Dirt collapsed around him. Packed tight, heavy. He gasped, but no air came. His mouth filled with dust. He was buried. Panic surged through him. He thrashed, his fingers clawing at the earth above, digging. Then his nails scraped against wood. His chest tightened. His memories rushed back. The coffin, the body, the eyes that had snapped open. But the body wasn't here anymore. Jason was alone. Then from above, frit. His breath froze. Something was digging. Something wanted in. And then, the wood splintered. A hand punched through. Rotten. Filthy. Fingers curled like claws. Jason screamed. But no one heard. Not this deep in the earth. Not in a town that forgets. The next boy. The new family had a son. His name was Alex. 11 years old. He had Jason's old room. The first night, he woke up to the sound of whispering. So faint, like a breath carried through the trees. He sat up, heart pounding. Hello. Silence. A voice. Help me. Alex turned toward the window. In the backyard, beneath the old oak tree, the dirt was moving. If you've enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have a tale of your own or a legend you'd like us to explore? Let us know. You might just hear it next. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. Because here the darkness is always waiting just for you.